All right, hey everybody, TG Watkins here. It is April 26th when I'm recording this. Hope you guys are doing well. This market is suddenly changing. We're enjoying it, and we have been all over this thing. I know it's been a lot of twists and turns, but we have been nailing all these turns with the market, with the news. I know it's been crazy, but we've been doing it. We're going to be talking about our positions. We're going to go over stuff, how we made 100. We're making 154% on the SPX trade. We're at 19% on Robinhood. We're up 112 and then like 30% on Tesla, and we got Bitcoin and 48% on FNGA, and we got a bunch of other trades. So we're going to go through and kind of talk about all this stuff, what I'm going to be seeing in the market going forward, where I think we're going to be heading, and kind of for how long. So I know that there's still some news out there. Remember, this is for educational purposes only. Also hit that like and subscribe button, because if you guys like this, we want to make sure that YouTube actually sends it to you. So hit those two things. And yeah, as we said, Trump negotiations, we know that this is going on. We know this is a thing, okay? It first started with the tariffs. Now they're kind of walking it back. You know, all this kind of stuff is, they're pausing it. And then even on Friday, I believe a tweet came out, him saying, we're not going to back down on our tariffs until China gives us something. And so the market kind of hiccuped a little bit at that. It actually stayed strong into the end of Friday. So if there's any kind of news that comes out that is trying to tamp down the market or kind of tamp down expectations, I think we should be prepared for it. I think we should expect it. These are, they're playing chicken, right? Okay, nobody wants to lose. Each side, America, China wants to be able to go back to their citizens and say, oh, we won, and we have good news and stuff like that. So just understand, news is out there. It's going to be a bumpy ride, but that's okay. As far as this goes, I do want to say, watch out for a pullback. Even though we have broken, I think, to the upside, broken a bearish trend line. So now I do think we're very, very bullish at this point. I do think that there's going to be a pullback. The market ran 4 days in a row last week, Tuesday through Friday, up every day. And there are a lot of positions that are very stretched. So I could really see that we get a pullback sometime next week. Now, I was thinking about it. There is some idea about the end of the month being part of it. So I think that's going to be part of the equation. But also we have Microsoft on, I think it's Tuesday or Wednesday. And then we have Apple and Amazon on, I think it's Wednesday. So maybe it's like Tuesday, then Wednesday. And so I could see that the market, after, again, being up a lot this week, I could see that the market actually, people are like, oh, okay, we have some really big earnings coming up. We're really not sure how that's going to go. We're going to kind of take some chips off the table. We're going to stop pressing the long side. And so I could see the market getting just a little bit weak into those earnings, and then we'll have to see what happens. I'm leaning towards the bullish side just because I think that the worst has already been kind of factored in, but really we know it's a totally unknown thing about how the market's going to react to earnings. So we're just going to have to kind of be along for the ride on that one and see what happens. Now, also, what are bonds doing? I know that TLT went down a couple weeks ago last week, and it was a bit of a surprise. I got caught up in my RKT trade because of that. I'll talk about that up here too. But I think that bonds have double bottomed. I think interest rates have topped out. We know the administration wants bonds up and TNX down and rates down. We know that. And there has been some talk about the idea that other countries, kind of protesting the tariffs, not liking this, the way that they could kind of fight back was through kind of dealing bonds, selling bonds. And there's a lot of, conjecture and conspiracy theories and whatever, and, did Trump fold and all that kind of stuff. I'll let you guys up to decide that. But there is some idea and conversation like, okay, so they're fighting back using bonds. And that's something we can kind of think about and be prepared for. But I think things are starting to change. We see the market going up. We see the VIX going down. I think the dollar is going to start going up. I'll talk about this. And gold coming down because I think it did its job as a hedge for now. Okay, so let's dive into this. We're going to be going through the indices, kind of some versus, XLP versus the FANG, gold versus dollar, and then we'll get into some individual tickers that I am looking at. And guys, remember, if you're enjoying this, we are having an absolute field day in the Moxie room. The traders are having a good time. If you guys look at my X page, I've been actually taking snippets from there and posting it so you can see what we've been doing, how people are enjoying it, and what we've been trading. So come on over, simplertrading.com/Moxie, sign up, and you can join the ride, and you can get your head straight after all this Trump stuff. I know, the markets are crazy, but you know what? We're navigating this really, really well. So come on in. All right, so let's get into the SPX, the SPY, and what we can see here is we have broken this trend line. So I'm going to look at this and say, hey, I think we are now bullish. We've also been ahead of this because I think that the market has actually crossed over the daily 21 a couple days ago, and that was my first line in the sand that I think things can actually continue to progress. Now, remember, we have actually been long on this market. We've been long, we've been short, and then we got long again. Let me show you what some of these trades actually look like. So in through here is the SPX fly. So here you go. And look at the date. This is the 22nd. We went long right there. Okay, so that was Monday was down, Tuesday was up. This is what it looks like. You can see all the setups in here. We are up 154% on this already in 3 days. So we put it on Tuesday, and as of Friday, we're up 140%, 154%. And I think this thing is going to go much higher because I am targeting 5,700. And I think that might be conservative. 5,700 right there. Depending if this market really gets going, maybe we actually overshoot a little bit. Maybe we can hit 5,800. I'm not going to necessarily target that right now, but it's kind of a stretch goal. I think 5,700 is looking pretty reasonable. So, but look at the timing. Our timing was right there that we got into this from there. And we were already long some other trades from back here before Trump came out with the tariff pause news. We were 2.5 hours early before he came out with that. So this is what I'm seeing with the SPX and SPY. As I said, 5,700. I think we can kind of get up there. But remember, I'm thinking that we could be due for a pullback. This has been a really good move all week, and I could see us maybe dipping a little bit and like this, and then we'll have to see if we can continue to move up from there. Now, of course, the NASDAQ is going to be looking more or less the same, a little bit stronger because, tech, when people are feeling better about things, the gains are usually in tech. So, this is looking pretty good, but basically same formations. I do think we're getting a little bit stretched, and so I'd love to see a bit of a pullback. And if you guys remember last week when I was talking, I had the video like, the mega caps are lying to you. And this is where I'm saying the small caps, they were actually looking pretty strong last week compared to the S&P, compared to the NASDAQ and mega caps and stuff like that. It also dipped on Monday, but didn't dip nearly as much. And now it's up here too. So that was one of the things where I was saying, hey, going into the end of last week, the bigger stocks were actually getting kind of pushed down harder than the rest of the market. And that was kind of starting our clue to say, hey, I think things are actually going to start moving up. And sure enough, they did. Now, if the market does pull back somewhere around here, I can kind of point to maybe the hourly 200 as a reason for price to pull back. We'll see. We'll see if that works out. But I do think that we should be prepared for some sort of pullback over the next few days. We'll see if we get it. I would love to have it, because I think that'll actually allow us to buy a dip. I just have to see if we're right about that. So we'll kind of let this one incubate for a little bit. Now, SMH, SOXL, we are all over this one. It's one of my larger positions, and I want to see if I know it's been kind of a beat up group, and people are like, why are you going after that? I think it could play catch up. I think this could actually have a fairly big move if some good news comes out of the administration. If there's a deal, if there's something like that, I think the semis have just been kind of the worst place to be, but they might actually play catch up, and I think that's something I want to really be looking at because these were some big moves in through here. So SMH, SOXL, the SPX, all the indices are kind of doing the same thing. This is a bottoming pattern, and this is what I put out last week, mid last week, and I said, hey, we're seeing these bottoming patterns all over the place. So go check out that video if you guys haven't. But yeah, look at this double bottom, positive divergence with the Moxie indicator. This is the stuff that's been working. And this coming week, we're going to have the Moxie indicator system ready to go, packaged for sale. So, because we just finished a 3-part class on it, along with 0DT day trading with the SPX and leveraged ETF trading. Now that so many stocks have single leveraged ETFs with them, I've been showing and teaching how to trade those specifically because, I like to trade stock and I like leverage. So that's what I do. So yeah, SMH is looking pretty great too. And then here's where we get to, let's look at XLP versus FNGA. This is another thing that I'm looking at and saying, yeah, I think that the market is starting to be more comfortable about what's happening and they don't need to hedge or be as defensive. Now, XLP did a great job holding up during the market. There were some drops in through here, but basically double bottom. And you can see actually, for the most part, it stayed in range when the whole market just rolled over and died. But now what we're seeing is we're really not getting anywhere. And this is where I think that it did its job. It was a defensive place, and we're actually going to, money definitely went into it. But now I'm kind of thinking, okay, we're probably going to see some money coming out of it and rotating back into stocks, equities, into kind of a risk-on behavior. How long? I'm not sure. Again, I'm targeting 5,700 for the SPX. We'll have to kind of see what happens after that. But if we kind of keep seeing these dynamics happening, then I'll keep going with. But yeah, look at look at XLP compared to FNGA as far as the rebound. Clearly you can see that XLP basically stayed up here when the rest of the market got absolutely demolished. So yes, it did its job as a flight to safety, but now you can see we have been up for 5 days, 4 or 5 days compared to the XLP, which is actually kind of whimpering into the week. And I think that is really showing us the difference in the character of the market right now. All right, then let's look about gold and the dollar. So let me just start with the dollar, because if we look in through here, and actually let me show you, let's get kind of a bigger chart in through here, and maybe I can even back up here because this looks very similar. If you look here, now I was kind of looking for the dollar to do a double bottom right there and then start to move up. It didn't. It decided to go one more day. But then now you can see this is inverse head and shoulders like that, and it's back up here. And now look at the difference. Even though price is at the same level where we're at, it's now over the hourly 50. So I'm looking at this and I have a feeling that the dollar is going to start moving up a bit. How far? I don't know. We'll have to see, kind of take it piece by piece. But I think the dollar is going to start moving up, which again is change from how the market was going down. The dollar was crashing, the market was crashing. Now I can see the dollar kind of coming back, and I think the market's going to come back too. And if you look at GLD, this was, right here, January, this was where the market started to crash. Gold started to really explode because everyone's like, oh my gosh, this is terrible, tariffs, flight to safety. This is where everybody piled in. It was the only major trade that was working. So of course, everybody piled in. But now what's happening? This looks to me like a blow off top. Now, maybe gold's going to continue to be bullish. I'm not saying that this is the end of the entire move. I'm saying right now that I think that there is a change happening, and this looks to me like a blow off top for now. So we are actually short GDX. I'd like to trade the gold miners. We are doing that through GDXD. And what I'm looking at, so we shorted it about here, popped up a little bit more, and then I think we're going to come down. We'll see. We'll see where it wants to go. I don't really have a target for GLD, but as long as the dollar goes up, GLD is going to come down. And I remember, I think GLD was a flight to safety while the market was starting to come down. So if the market is done going down for now, then there's really no need for gold to be up here. And people are probably going to say, yeah, that's a heck of a move. That's really too rich for my taste. And they're going to start taking their profits and they're going to rotate those profits into the market, into equities. And I think that's what's going to be happening here. So, you don't have to go sell your gold or everything like that, but don't go chasing it. And I think that there's still more downside before this finds some secure footing to possibly go back up. All right. And then if we look at dollar sign SPXA50R breadth, this is another clue that I was looking at, and again, it looks exactly like the S&P. I mean, that's a bottoming pattern, that's a buy the dip situation. In fact, using the Moxie indicator, you can see price below the 50, but the Moxie indicator above 0. That's what I call a trampoline move. That is a buy the dip opportunity. I mean, we even had the Moxie indicator fire over here. So this is looking really, really good. And it basically bottomed out way down here. And so now I'm looking for price to come up. I don't know. Again, my first target's probably something like this, and then we'll kind of see where it goes. Obviously, there's a big level in through here, so we'll see what that's going to look like. But yeah, for now, this thing's heading up. Okay, so then we get into the put-call ratio. Let me pull that up over here. And this is another indication. You look at the put-call ratio, it basically peaked out right at the lows. Just another interaction. I'm looking at this. Put-call ratio is starting to come down. Market's starting to come up. Okay, we are starting to see all of these mechanisms start to change course and go with the direction that all of these things agree with. Because when the market was coming down, these things were all going a certain way. Now they've all changed direction, and that's why I think that the market's going to start heading up for the foreseeable future. And again, that does not mean that we're not going to get dips. Okay, it's not going to be straight up. Okay, there will be dips, there will be pullbacks, it's going to be a bumpy ride, but that means opportunity for us. Okay, so we kind of looking through here. Yeah, the VIX doing everything I wanted to do. In fact, we started getting long in the market right there when the VIX ran into the underside of a downtrending hourly 50 with the Moxie indicator firing red. And if you guys remember last week's video, what I say, I was looking for the VIX to at least come down to the daily 50. Now it could totally go further. And hey, you know what? Maybe it bounces at the 51st and then it goes lower. We need to just factor in some of this movement. Okay, it's not going to be straight line. There are going to be bumps and bounces and all that kind of stuff. But this is where I think things are going to be heading. And so far, that is working out beautifully. All right, let's take a look at TLT. So here's the thing that I underestimated about the RKT trade, Rocket Mortgage. It is exactly linked to TLT. So I looked at that. I was looking at Rocket and, it was looking pretty great. And then it got hammered because TLT got hammered. I was like, oh, okay, I see what's happening here. Obviously, Rocket Mortgage is going to be interest rate sensitive, so it is following the TLT. But what we can see is now TLT had its double bottom in through here, again with the bottoming pattern and the Moxie divergence, and now we have a Moxie price trigger. It looks to me like TLT is going to start working its way back up. This is good. This is what the market wants to see. This is what the administration wants to see. Okay, so again, may not, maybe there's a little bit of pullback, something like this, but generally speaking, I think we should be seeing TLT start to move higher. Therefore, Rocket should start to move up. Because remember, I was looking at this thinking, hey, Rocket's actually pretty strong. I mean, it's going up when the market's going down. But it just got crunched here. You can see that this exactly looks like TLT right there. You can see that double bottom in through here and that interaction between the 52 and all that on the hourly chart. So if you guys are still interested in RKT, right in here, again, there might be a little bit of a pullback, but right in this area, I think this would be another great place to get back into RKT if you're still interested in that. I don't know where it's going to go, but I think that it's going to be tied to TLT, and I think TLT is going to start going up like that. But yeah, look at all the volume. In fact, look at the volume that came in right here at the lows. Follow the volume, guys. You just have to follow those footprints, okay? So these are the things that we talk about in the Moxie room. So remember, come on over to simplertrading.com/Moxie. All right, then we look at Hood, because this was another thing I put out on social media. I made a video last week saying Hood, Palantir, Crowd, a couple other names that we were trading were looking very interesting. They held the pullback pretty well. I can't say it made a double bottom. Maybe you can kind of do that if you kind of ignore the dip like that. But it recovered very, very well. And I was looking at this and I said, yeah, that's probably going to be the buy the dip. I looked at that and said, that's looking good. Because look, we had price below the 50, the Moxie indicator above 0. And again, another trampoline move. And I started seeing these all over the place. And this is the bottoming pattern stuff that we were talking about. Okay, so we're starting to see this. And it looked to me like the market was going to get pretty strong. And again, now that we have single stock leveraged ETFs, I've been looking at this and saying, no, this is great. Actually, this thing moves pretty well. So we hopped onto it right there. Right there. Let me show you the trade. So you can see here to the day, we put it on the 23rd. So, oops, let me get that back. So right here, you can see the 23rd right there. Yeah. And yeah, oh, sorry, that is we need Robinhood. There we go. So we put it on the 23rd, and ROBN is the leveraged ETF. So that's what this looks like. And we're already up 19%. So like 2 days, we're up 19%. Now, I don't think it's sustainable. I would love to see a pullback. We can add more if we want to do that. But and then we have earnings coming up, so that's going to be a bit of a challenge too. Who knows what's going to happen? You're going to have to decide if you want to be in on this thing for earnings or not, okay? That's up to you guys to decide. So yeah, Hood was doing great, and Palantir, this is another one we spoke about, or at least I put out on a video. I have my hands full, so I didn't trade this one, but I have been talking about it. I know that there are a handful of our subscribers in the Moxie room who are trading Palantir or PLTU, which is the leveraged ETF. And right here was the exact entry, that clean pullback right into the hourly 50 with the Moxie indicator above 0. And boy, look at that thing take off. Now, this is such a good move. This is part of why I am a little concerned about the early part of next week. I'm looking at this and like, that's great, but it's not sustainable. Okay, it's right up here at resistance. So I would love to see this thing kind of pull back and give us another opportunity to get into it. And hey, I might do that. You got to keep a little bit of powder dry for names like this. Obviously the market's been doing really, really well. And then CRWD, and remember CRWL is the crawl, funny enough, is the leveraged ETF for that. And once again, buy the dip right there. Okay, across the board, it was Tuesday that I said, hey, we need to buy this market. And that's where we bought the SPX. We bought a few other things, and this market's been doing really well since then. So yeah, right in there was the spot, and now you can see it's up here. It is, as I say, a little bit getting a little bit frothy. I wouldn't be chasing it up here. Let's see if the market gives us any kind of dip sometime next week that we can get into these things on. All right, and then even Bitcoin. So we trade BitX because this is the leveraged ETF of Bitcoin, and that's what this one looks like. So you can see on the 17th. So this is actually one of our earlier trades. Once the market started to turn around, we got in on the 17th because, well, look at that. That's a nice bull flag right into moving average support. Everything's looking good. And look at the Moxie indicator. Green, 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 green. And we are up 25%. I even said probably $46 as a target. Whew, where are we at? $46. So yeah, maybe Monday, if how the market opens up, I might take profits on this one just to reduce in the expectation that maybe we do get a little bit of a pullback. I've told the Moxie subscribers that, you know, I don't know if I want to feather this too much because I do think the market's going to keep going up. So maybe take a little bit off, but be prepared to buy the dip. I do think that's what's going to be happening in through here. And so I want to make sure we have enough dry powder for that. But look at that, 25% hit our target. We got in, fantastic trade. Really, really happy with that one. And then let me show you FNGA again, since this, and this is kind of a fun one since we got in pretty early on this. If you can see, this was on the 9th. So right there. Now I'm on Pacific time. If you guys look at the timestamp of where we put this out, it was 9:56 Pacific. That was pretty much first thing in the morning. And then the market later popped up. So we put this thing out before Trump said his thing. And then even just a few minutes later at 10:04 Pacific, I said, this is where I said I thought price was going to go, for at least for the SPX. I said if the SPX moves up, I would expect it to go to the daily 21 or just over the hourly 50, probably to the upper third ATR. This should also fill the gap. 5,400. Look where this thing went. One day. Actually, you can see here, if we look at the SPX, this is exactly where it went. It went to the 21, the third ATR, and 5,400, a little over 5,400 in one day, actually just a few hours after I sent that thing. So this is what I'm talking about, guys. If you're interested in catching these things, like, doesn't matter what Trump's texting or tweeting out there, we are on top of it. So you guys got to come into the Moxie room, simplertrading.com/Moxie, and come join us because we are having an absolute field day and loving this kind of market. And hopefully you guys are not getting beat up too much. All right, so then Tesla, this was another fun one. I believe the news on Friday was something about standardization of robo-taxis. So let me show you what this one looked like. And so here you go. Now, I did not know that news was coming out. Maybe some people did, but I looked at the charts, I saw what was happening, and I said, you know what? I think Tesla is going to get going. And so we bought Tesla on the 24th at 11:05 a.m. and it was the next day that this thing exploded. And again, I think people are saying it popped up because of the news about the standardization of rules regarding robo-taxis. Okay, whether that's, I guess it's a good thing for Tesla. And if you guys look at this, my first target was 300. I think that's going to get hit. My next target is 330, and there's a good chance we might even go a little bit higher. So if you look here, I started to put in some lines as to where we could go. Here was 330. And then 380, 390, something like that. I think 380, 360. So that's kind of my range as to where we might go on something like this. I did also hear that some analyst did do a price target of 350. So again, right smack in the middle of where I've been targeting for Tesla to go. And then that news comes out, and then that analyst upgrades and does a price target of 350. So guys, I'm telling you, like, we are all over this thing and just nailing these moves, and we're doing it before the news comes out. We're not reacting to this stuff. We're actually proactive, and we're getting into these things before these things explode. So yeah, we are up. We put out a call spread on this. We bought it for $13.64 on the 24th. We're up 112% in one day on this thing already. We also bought TSLA stock right here. So when Trump did come out with the news, I said, okay, we're just going to have to keep buying more things. We bought TSLL, which is the leverage ETF of Tesla, back here. We held it through all this, and we're up 30% on TSLL all the way up there. So yeah, just having a great time with all this kind of stuff. So again, this is kind of the list if you guys wanted to go back and look through anything. We're having a great time. Remember, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button on YouTube. That way you can keep making sure you get to see more of these and stay up to date with what we're doing. But we're having a good time. I'm looking forward to the next few weeks. And let's see if we can get SPX 5700. Okay? So you guys take care. We'll see you at the next one.